Thank you for coming today. We're here to honor and remember our friend, Mo. I'm Larry Karp, the fire chief here in Quilcene, and it's an honor to see so many Quilcene and Coyle residents, friends of Mo, law enforcement, and firefighters in attendance today. The attendance today speaks volumes for a man that Mo was. Last week, the newspaper asked me for a few quotes to describe Mo. And I said he is a larger-than-life individual. I said he is a friend to all. I told them he was willing to help anyone at any time. And we know that is all true. I've only known Mo for a short time. We met November 1st, 2012, when I came to Quilcene for my job interview with the commissioners. After the interview, the commissioners asked Mo to give me a tour of the district. He took me into what is now my office and said, "Right here, sir, this will be your office." And I chuckled to myself because he was already putting me in the position that I had not been offered. But then I thought he probably said that to all of the candidates that he showed around town. So we went and we picked up Denise over at Mount Walker Inn, and Mo gave us the 3-minute tour of Quilcene. He then took us to the Dabob fire station, and then it was down to the bottom of the Coyle Peninsula. He just had to show us his pride and joy. Coyle Fire Station 22. He showed us Fire Engine 22, and he told us a few stories about 822 and how they raised the money to pay for it, and it had been his little baby ever since. He showed us Brush 22, that's the utility vehicle that's out front with the ugly flames on the front fender. He told us that at the time of purchase, some of the community weren't happy about the extra costs we must have paid for those ugly flames, and he had to explain to everybody that we actually got a discount because it was a stock model, and it was done that way whether we wanted it or not. Mo then took us on a tour of some of the secluded streets of Coyle. At one point he stopped and he said, "Listen, what do you hear?" I said, "I don't hear anything, Mo. What do you hear?" He said, "I hear banjos." He said, "I hear banjos. You're now in God's country. This is where I live." I said, "Okay, he's a little bit off." We drove for a few more minutes and he stopped the vehicle again. And he said, "I've got a pretty good idea the commissioners are going to pick you as their next chief." And like I said before, he probably said that to all of the candidates. He said, "Let me ask you a question. Are you more a fire guy or are you an EMS guy?" And I said, "Well, Mo, I'm a fire guy. Give me a fire and I'll go running in with the nozzle and I'll put that fire out." And he said, "Great, because I'm an EMS guy and we're going to make a great team." Mo said, "If you'll have me, I'd like to be your EMS chief. I know the job and we'll be a great team." Not knowing I'd ever come back to Quilcene ever again in my life, I accepted his offer and I told him right then and there he could be my EMS chief. Mo was sure the salesman, wasn't he? After I was offered the position here, Mo and I kept in touch on a regular basis for the next couple of months while I still lived in Chicago. He called me about once a week. He sent me emails. He genuinely seemed happy that I accepted the position, and he was excited that I was coming. One of the emails he sent me in February had an attachment on it, and when I opened it, it was a picture of me, of my photo sitting in the office chair. And he had written, "We were just wondering how you'd fit in the seat. Open the attachments, I think you look good." The day after we arrived in Quilcene on March 22nd, 2013, Denise and I stopped in to see whoever was in the fire station. When we walked into the station, Mo was holding court in his office with a few of the resident firefighters, as he usually did. They hung on his every word. He saw me through his window, and he jumped out of his seat, and he gave me a huge bear hug, and he welcomed us to town. And that was the beginning of my 20 months working with Mo. During that time, working with Mo, I realized him to be a leader, a teacher, a mentor, a comedian, enthusiastic, a dancer, an EMT, a sounding board, a hard worker. He was trustworthy, loyal, helpful, well, kind of all 12 points of the Boy Scout law. He was an EMT instructor for many years. He's responsible for many of the talented EMTs that we have working for us throughout Jefferson County. In a nutshell, he was what I needed to help get my feet planted here in Quilcene. The young resident firefighters, all of them, looked up to Mo. Some of them looked up to him as a father figure. Others looked to him as a grandfather figure. But he was always there for the guys. He would check on them on Saturday and Sunday mornings. He would call them after the emergency calls, no matter what time of the night, just to make sure everything went well. I dread driving just a few miles to reach an emergency scene, but he thought nothing of coming all the way from Coyle to Quilcene to help us on a call, especially if the patient was a child. He'd get there as quick as he could. The last few months, I was turning him around and telling him we didn't need him to respond all the way to Quilcene for certain calls. I could hear the disappointment in his voice when I told him he could go available before he even left his driveway. But I could also tell that he was slowing down and he didn't need to make the 22-mile one-way trip, that we could handle it for him. Mo and Marty moved to Coyle in September of 1990. They had no previous experience working for a fire district, but they asked how they could help their community. So they turned in their applications to join in early November, 2 months later, and they were attending EMT school by January of '91. It didn't take Mo long to fall in love with the fire service. I want to thank Marty for allowing Mo to devote his last 24 years to his community. Thank you for encouraging Mo and joining him in serving your community. You could have both moved down to Donald Road and took up hobbies or joined a few clubs, but I bet nothing would have been as rewarding for Mo as responding to assist his neighbors. Thanks again for allowing Mo to be part of our organization for all these years. Mo is not only a huge part of Quilcene Fire, he was a senior member of the Jefferson County Fire Service. He was a longtime member of not only the local EMS Council, but the larger regional EMS Council. His reach extended far beyond Coyle and Quilcene. As I said earlier, he was a larger-than-life character. Chief Pomeroy of East Jefferson Fire referred to Mo last month as a Jefferson County EMS and fire historian. And that's what he was. He's seen it all in his 24 years in the county. Mo was 54 years old or so when he joined the fire service, and that just goes to show you're never too old to volunteer. He committed the last quarter of his life to his community, and we appreciate every minute of it. Mo has made a lasting mark on Quilcene Fire, and his legacy will live on with us.